For those of you who are returning, welcome back to Meekly Sydney, and for those of you who are new, hi, my name is Sydney, nice to meet you, hope you stay a while, hit the subscribe button, join the family, you know the YouTube drill. So I moved out, as you can see. This is my very own apartment, my very first apartment by myself, without my family, and it's been quite a process to get here, and I thought that why not document such a big moment in my adult life with a series on YouTube for everybody to see. So in this series, I'm going to be talking a little bit about how this whole thing came to be. You'll be able to see the process of me buying furniture, moving things, just like a little bit of vlogging along the process of signing the lease and things like that. So I hope you stick around. It's going to be a lot of fun. And at the end of this series, I will be making a video with all the tips and tricks I used to move out for a pretty reasonable cost, because if you're watching this, chances are you're either just scrolling through YouTube, or you've been clicking. You've been here for a while and you are interested in my life, or 3, this is a big one, you're looking to move out and you're looking for tips. So stay tuned for more. If you're seeing this in like a while, like months after it's posted, it's probably out by now. But I wanted to help out those people who were like me, where we like aren't super rich people. We want to move out of our parents' house for the first time. We don't necessarily want a bunch of roommates though, and we don't really want to like have to buy this expensive place. And so I did a lot of research so you don't have to, and I will be explaining all of that very soon. So stay tuned for that video. But now let's get into the first story time. I'm a fighter, igniter, yeah, I'm the original. Okay, so I think I'm going to break this up into 2 videos. The first video will just kind of be leading up to this apartment, and then the second video will be the whole story of this apartment, because it's actually a whole process. But I wanted to share this because I firmly believe that this apartment was something that like God has put in my life. Like, it is so nice, it is so pretty, it's just all of the cards lined up, if you will, and everything timing-wise just came together, and there's no doubt in my mind that this is where I should be, and you will know why when I explain in just a minute. So here we go. Okay, so I have wanted to move out kind of off and on for about, I'm gonna say since I was probably around 18, 19, so that would be 3 or 4 years, or 4 or 5 years rather. And it was basically based on the fact that my mom and I, while we're really close, we also are very similar people. And so we would fight quite a bit and just butt heads and stuff like that. And it was never like a problem. Like, people, whenever I say that, they're like, I'm sorry you had a bad relationship with your mom. Like, no, I didn't have a bad relationship with my mom. She and I just had disagreements a lot, and it didn't affect how good of like friends we are, if you will. It just kind of affected my everyday stress level and her everyday stress level. And so as I was growing up and going from like high school to tech school and graduating and all of that, and like starting my first jobs and stuff, I kind of was in this mentality of like, I hate this, I'm gonna move out. And I kind of kept threatening it, but I never did anything about it, because I knew that I couldn't do anything about it, because I was like working part-time and I was not about to work more than that and all that, and it's expensive to move out, blah blah blah. Fast forward to like the first time I actually started looking at places to move out would have been the end of 2018. End of 2017. I was about 20. I was about 20. It was the end of 2017, beginning of 2018, and I looked at apartments with my friend Alyssa, and they were kind of in the general area that I had grown up in since I was like 7. And the thing about where I lived growing up was that it's a nicer part of like town, if you will, and it's like very like upscale, new, and kind of overpriced. And so all of the places we looked at were like so overpriced, and I was like, okay, I can do this. I'm getting a new job, I'm gonna work full time, like it's gonna be great, I'm gonna share the rent with this girl. We found this one place that was just like so nice, had the nicest like clubhouse, and it had a movie theater in the clubhouse, and it was like kind of like this, but bigger, tall ceilings, granite countertops, 2 bedrooms. And of course I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I want. It was pretty overpriced for a 2-bedroom, but at the same time, it was a much better move than the 1-bedroom, because the 1-bedroom was barely less than that, and there were 2 people splitting the rent. If I bought that now with her, or bought it, rented it, I could afford it, then it would have been very tight, and I don't know how I would have done it. So anyway, me freaking out, being like, I can do this, but also like, oh my gosh, this is terrifying. So shortly after we looked at apartments and we kind of picked the one we liked, she started dating this guy, and we kind of had this mentality, like this thought process of like, they were kind of on that kind of relationship that was like serious, and I knew it was going to end up going somewhere eventually. And so I was like, okay, well, you know, they're probably going to get married within the next year or two, and I don't really want to be locked into this lease with this girl if she leaves. And she and I talked about this, and so we ended up just being like, no, I guess we're not going to do this. And so it was kind of like one of those things we put on hold, and she ended up getting married at the end of that year, 2018, and I was happy for her. I didn't really feel the need to move out, I don't think, after that so much. It was just kind of like, okay, I mean, like, I had a pretty good life. I was gone from my house a lot. I got a new job, and half the year I feel like I was just like gone at work or gone with people. Got really involved in my church that year and just had a lot going on. The next year would have been last year, and I think my priorities were not really moving out. It was basically, I started a new position at work. I was very involved with my friends and family, and just had an overall really good year. I started, like, I think toward the end of the year debating like moving out again. I don't remember seriously looking or anything, but I know I was like buying things to move out, you know, kind of, again, like every like Black Friday would roll around, I would just start looking for deals for things I would need in the future. My mom actually bought me a set of dishes for Christmas, and so I got that, and I was like, okay, perfect, like I'm getting ready, you know. In January of this year, I went to visit some friends in Oklahoma. And some of my childhood friend and his wife and kids, so they're literally like my siblings and nieces and our nephew, and niece. And I was like, you know, I'm kind of thinking about moving out, but I don't know if I want to. And we kind of had this conversation. It was mostly him and I about just like mortgages and rent and stuff. And they were renting the house they were in, but they were looking to move eventually into a house they would buy. And my mom's a real estate agent. She always was like, you need to buy, because buying is a smart decision. Absolutely is, if you can do it. And I was like, oh yeah. So what is your perspective on this whole thing? And we talked about it, and I was kind of still on the fence, where I was like, I'd like to move, but I also want to travel, and I don't know what I want to invest my money in. I come home, and my mom and I have this pretty massive fight, and we fight about something. It was this whole thing, and I basically said something to my brother that I should not have said, and my mom heard it, and she got upset, and then it escalated, because that's how it is. We both can't leave things alone, and so it escalated, and it turned into her saying, and this was kind of like years and years of just like our frustration in the moment would be me being like, I'm gonna move out, or her being like, you need to move out. And the more time went on towards this time of the year, there was like kind of this mentality where it was like, my mom was like kind of like, did not like just like how I guess I was acting, because she kind of always was like, if you're gonna be disrespectful, if you're not gonna, like, there were certain things she didn't want said in her house or whatever, and like I have a looser mouth than she does, and I guess I'm disrespectful to a degree. I don't know, but anyway, basically like very much so like adult child mom relationship problems. And she would be like, if you're not going to respect me or my rules, like, you need to move out. And I was like, absolutely, I understand. Like, and like, I think there would be times I would try to like get better, but then there were times I didn't care. And so this kind of turned into that again of like you need to move out, or if you're gonna act like this, you need to move out. And I was like, you have always done this. Like, in the heat of the moment, I would threaten to move out, or she would threaten to kick me out for years. And I was like, you've never actually kicked me out. And I was like, you need to give me a date, Mom. And she was like, okay, be out by March 1st. And this was January. And I was like, thank you for finally actually doing something. She got really upset that I said that. But in that moment, it was kind of like this happiness and like this panic set in. And the next couple hours, I remember just listening to worship music to calm myself down and remind myself that like, even this is a scary endeavor to be going on now, that God was with me. And I was looking at apartments and realizing just how poor I was, and I got together with my friend Eva that night, and she and I were kind of talking about it, and I was just kind of like being able to process through what had happened. And she kind of mentioned the idea of maybe wanting to move at some point. And so she and I, because I kind of had felt like she would maybe say that. So she and I, the next week or two, looked at a couple places together. We found a couple that we liked, but the whole time I kind of ultimately felt like it wasn't the time for her yet. And so eventually I decided, you know, like, I need to know if this is something you want to do. And she was kind of like, and I was like, it's okay, I understand. Like I didn't feel like it was your time yet either. And so that whole thing kind of happened, and I was like, okay, that's great, you know. And so I was back to just me. In February, I actually did put down a application on an apartment that I really liked. It was in a triplex. The guy was really nice and remodeling it and everything. And there was like a laundry in the basement and stuff. I took one of my childhood friends, and he basically thought it was such a bad neighborhood and such a sketchy place. I liked it a lot, and I didn't get the apartment, and I was very frustrated about it in February. And then, you know, my mom kind of, we would talk about it, and she kind of came back to this level of like, well, you know, if you'll respect my rules, you can stay here. And so I kind of felt like, because I was so on the fence about do I move, do I not move, that God had been like, this was your sign to move when she kicked me out. So when she went back on it, I was like, what does that mean exactly? But I didn't really have too much time to think about it until I kind of just chalked it up to like, okay, this must be like God saying, yeah, move, but like not in a rush. So but that's as far as I got in my thinking process before COVID hit in mid-March. And I stayed home with my family for lockdown, which where I live was about, I wanted to say about a month and a half before life kind of got back to some level of normalcy again. And it's not normal, but it's getting there. And so I was home for like a month and a half with my family, and she said to me, she was like, it's really a good thing that you didn't move because you would have been lonely. And that's also very true. And so I just spent all that time with my family, really bonded with them. It was a really good time. And then in May, so a month and a half later after lockdown was over, life kind of got back to normal, and my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer, stage 4, and through a bunch of different tests throughout May and part of June, I pretty much, we found out what it was, and it was a hard thing to go through for my family. And on top of my mom having this and being she may get very stressed out easily, she also was very stressed about the whole coronavirus and everything. And so my anxiety levels, because I already have them, were raised. And every time I'd be home, it was either the cancer or the coronavirus, or how I wasn't living life responsibly enough for either. And my stress levels were so high. I remember one time being home, and I was standing near her office, and I could feel the stress and anxiety levels so high in my body that I actually felt like I was going to physically explode. And it's not anything against my family, it was just not a healthy environment in that time. And the more I processed through it, the more I was like, this is the time I need to move out, because I'm not healthy enough mentally here to be able to help her through this time. I just can't do it. And I felt very selfish to do that, but it felt like something I needed to do. And the more mentors and friends I talked to about it, a few of them are like, you're moving when your mom has cancer. Like a few family members more than anything, but pretty much friends and mentors said, you're very strong and brave to do it at this time, and I think it's a good idea. And I was like, thank you. So some people understood, and then it was like, to make my mom understand that was hard. I had to sit down with her a couple times and be like, I love you, and I want to explain to you that the reason that I'm doing this is because I think it'll be healthier for both of us. I know I'm like the kid that is the most like this with her, so even my presence can stress her out sometimes. And so I just knew, like, even with this whole situation, her having cancer, me being outside of her presence, her typical residence, would be helpful for her and for me, and I could be there to help very presently when I could. And so anyway, I have to go in a minute here because I'm meeting a friend for breakfast, but essentially she understood that, and I said, I just don't want you to feel like I'm abandoning you. And I think on the surface, her emotional side was like, my child's abandoning me, but like deep down in her soul, she knew like why. And so yeah, so started the process once again for moving out, and the looking process and everything like that. And I was looking a little when I had those conversations, but I'll go into more detail of the places I looked at in a minute. I think that is it for this video. I will continue the story time with this whole process of this apartment in the next video. I might record that later when I get back, but I have to run now, so please stay tuned. Like this video, leave a comment, and let me know if you enjoyed this story time. And please subscribe for more. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!